So I'm Jeff Elhart, one of Ken's two sons. My brother Wayne and I had the fortunate pleasure of having Dad as our father, as well as our mentor in business and in life, and our coach. And I just want to ask Ken a few questions about his life that he's already talked about, some of his past and his family, as well as his professional career, his service career, as well as his retirement time. So, Dad, I've got a few questions dating back to your ancestry, and I've got a photo here, and it's a photo that has to be, it looks like there's 100 people in here. It's probably not, but it was the annual Elhart reunion in Johnson Park. I think that was in Granville. August 3 of 1938. So you would have been 9 years old, I think, at that time.
That's right.
And so maybe you can look at it and point out, and we can get a picture of this on the screen. But who do you recognize in there?
Well, I recognize me right there.
Okay.
And this was George Moose, a cousin. This is my sister, Clara. And if I can find my... This is my dad, and this is my mother. Interesting story. When the Elharts came to Michigan, one of the brothers, the oldest son of my grandparents, stayed in the Netherlands. He had a good job with the Netherlands government and decided that he didn't want to take the risk of coming over here. So anyway, a few years ago, we got a call from Jack DeWitt from the DeWitt Hatchery and then Big Dutchman, and it was his mother who was the girl that my grandparents brought over, my great aunt Tilly, and they called whoever they knew in the Netherlands, last name Elhart, and to come over and visit. And so we went to meet them. And the first thing he said to me is, you spell your name wrong here. In the Netherlands, it's Aelhardt. And I brought this picture along, one like it, and I said, I want you to know that they produced here and expanded. He said, I've got that picture that your grandpa sent to my grandpa in the Netherlands, and it's all written in Dutch, who belongs to who, which I thought was really neat. Lovely people. They're almost as nice as the Michigan Dutch. So anyway, we enjoyed the afternoon.
That's great. And you had two sisters growing up. You had Aunt Clara and Aunt Joanne. I had someone bring to me a picture just a week or two ago, and in there is Aunt Joanne when she was Dutch dancer.
That's right, with her girlfriends. This was 1957, and she was Dutch dance and did that each year, and she was cheerleader for the high school. So,
and tell us about Aunt Joanne. She was your younger sister, right?
Yep. Aunt Joanne got mesothelioma, and she had she passed away. We lost her when she was 37 years old. She had three sons. The youngest at that time was 8, one was 11, and one was 16. I remember one of the younger birthdays, it was John's birthday was going to be the day really of her funeral, and we said we can't do that. So I had a birthday with birthday cake and some presents for John, and then the next day had the funeral. And the kids, the two younger ones, the 9 and 11-year-old, I got a call from them in the summer. She died in the spring. Uncle Ken, yeah. And they told me who they were, John and Joel. Said, do you have a job for us? And I said, well, what do you need? Well, we'd like to buy some bicycles, and we're looking for a job. And I said, I think we have a job for you. And our office manager at the time lived near them. and she brought them in each day. And I'd think of things, empty the wastebaskets, do that. They'd come running back up. Now what we're going to do, Uncle Ken? And I thought, I'm working harder now than I did before without these kids here. But they had to have a place during the day that Dad was working. And so I said to my dad, Grandpa, you're going to take those kids a couple days a week to your house and work in the garden. So between us, we got them handled, and they made enough money to buy their bikes, and everybody was happy.
And your other sister was Clara. And tell us a little bit about Clara's life. She had a interesting life, her whole life. And tell us about Clara and her children.
Clara lived till last summer. She was 86 and died of pancreatic cancer. But she was 14 when we lost our mother, and she really, from there on in, accepted the role of lady of the house. Now, we did have, or my dad finally hired a widow lady who was living with her son and daughter-in-law, and she came and worked 5 days a week to help make some meals and so on. But Claire, at 14, made a dinner for the thrashers. In those days, they worked in working bees. They'd help 4 or 5 thrashers would help the neighbor, and then they'd help them back, and that's how they got their work done. And to come noon, it's time to water the horses and have dinner, and she had the dinner ready for them. I can see him pat her on the back yet and thank her for what she'd done. But and then when we moved to Holland, she worked for a while in the Ford garage in the office, and Barbara Ford. And then she married a Jim Slaw from here in town, and he got a job in Grand Rapids, and so they moved there. But she worked in accounting until she retired. She raised a family with 3 sons and a daughter, nice kids, and kept a house and worked in Verhagen, Hudsonville for many, many years. She was a great gal. A little bossy by times, but a great gal.
And she battled pancreatic cancer for quite a long time. How long?
5 years. She had, they thought 6 months to a year, but she was just they couldn't understand why, but she just kept going. And but she was always an organizer. Before she went in for her chemotherapy or radiation, she made a casserole, so if she felt bad, she still had something to eat. And just a great, great lady, but always planning.
And she unfortunately had a similar unfortunate experience as you did as a parent to someone that died from a mental illness by suicide.
Yes, Mark Slaw, her youngest son, dealt with depression and had serious depression, and had been in Pine Rest, and then he was living with her for a while, and she felt that he was good enough where she could go to Florida for a week to visit friends, and she did, and he was to go to work back at Sly Furniture. He was a furniture finisher. The day after she was coming home, and when she got home, he had just taken his life. It was a real shock. Left 2 little boys, a little boy and a little girl, and a wife alone to raise them.